Meeting will please come to order. Barbara, please call the roll.
We have Commissioners Fleming, Funderburk, Levine, and Noonan present.
Thank you. This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. First item on the agenda is opening remarks by me, and I have none. I'd like to make a motion to defer items 14 and 15. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
They're deferred. Report or briefing by the general manager?
I'll have comments later, sir, in association with one of the items, but none at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from commissioners on agendized items and requests from commissioners relating to departmental operations? None? One, yes. Commissioner Noonan.
As you know, Commissioner Fleming and I serve on the INYO Standing Committee, and our last board meeting up north really was a special event where the community really made time to showcase what we've accomplished together, and the Future Farmers of America have created this beautiful, beautiful extended school facility with animals and education, and I feel very proud that the department is a part of it. I feel like it showcases that we can work together and we can work in tangent with facilitating water efficiency and provide benefits to our shared communities. So it was a very, very special long day, but a day that I think Commissioner Fleming and I appreciated. So I feel like it would be unappreciative for me not to comment that in public comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Fleming?
I would concur with Commissioner Noonan. I guess I would just say that, in life, relationships are primary and everything else is secondary. And what was really terrific about days like the other day is even when we have very large litigation going on, you have big, hairy matters that last for years and years and years, what's really terrific is the relationships that are being built by the folks on this commission, especially who've done so much work to cement the relationships up there and staff, including especially Marty. And it's great to go up and spend a day and have really good, honest conversations with folks, but also build some relationships and build some bridges. And it was a terrific day.
Just adding my own comments, Commissioner Funderburk and I had the opportunity in the context of the Great Basin issue to get to know some of our friends in INYO very well. And obviously the relationship between LA, LADWP, and INYO is extremely critical to the city of Los Angeles. And I know that all of the commissioners that are not on the INYO committee deeply appreciate the time and the work that Commissioners Fleming and Noonan are putting in on this extremely important set of relationships, and also are very appreciative of Marty Adams and his staff who are in the trenches on this, and this relationship is absolutely vital to the city of Los Angeles. So thank you all.
And I think one thing that's important to state, and thank you so much for your comments, if you look at previous years, 30% of our water supply came from our aqueduct. Because of the short rainfall and snowfall, currently only 9% comes to Los Angeles. In our, 12-hour meeting? It seemed like a 36-hour meeting. It probably was an 8-hour meeting, but it was very long. But the agriculturists were really, really lamenting the fact that they could not conduct business given that we could not facilitate their irrigation needs. And even though we stated that we would be not taking any kind of water supply during the irrigation season, and that throughout the year we would only be taking 9% instead of 30%, there still was a lot of livid community members. And so I reiterated that Angelinos really are trying to make a difference in conserving water, and that we have a lot of rebates, and we're really trying to make a difference. And it's not like we were, to be honest with you, we were kind of typecast as hogs, just hoarding water, and I said that's not the case. And I know personally We're trying to make a difference within our home, and I know that many members of our community are as well. And I applaud Marty Adams because he really brainstormed a clever way to allow these farmers to continue their operations at least for the next 1 to 2 months. So, bravo. Mm-hmm.
These are critically important matters, and having you and Commissioner Fleming out there explaining them is really important to the city of LA. Unfortunately, there are some inaccurate and unfortunate images of Los Angeles around the state. I dealt with them when I was in Congress many years ago, and they're just wrong. And as a result of leadership for quite some time in this department, particularly by staff and also by commissioners, the citizens of Los Angeles have been leaders in the state with regard to conservation and are continuing to do that. So it's extremely important that that message get out there, and thank you for communicating it.
Yeah. And thank you for, I think, just renewing an alliance with the people from Inyo and Owens County, because I know that you and Commissioner Funderburk were a big part of that. So thank you to both of you.
We move to public comment. Just with regard to the structure of public comment, let me be clear. Each speaker will be allowed to speak up to 2 minutes on each agenda item, but there will be a 5-minute cumulative total to speak on all agenda items. So if people want to speak on more than one item, they're going to have to limit their total remarks to 5 minutes, and Barbara will remind them of that when the public comment occurs. Barbara, we have 3 speaker cards under public comment. Go ahead and call on them.
Yes, the first speaker is Adolf Hitler.
Sig Heil. So, thank you for notifying that you've now changed the rules, limiting comment to the total meeting to 5 minutes. That's because when you get criticized, rightfully, you turn the trenches back on free speech. That's what you are. You call yourself liberals. You're not liberals, you're fascists. And that's why I'm here today as Adolf Hitler. So, I was over at the city council meeting today to talk about minimum wage, and they had an overflow room. And somebody reminded me, hey, you should go to the DWP commission meeting. It's this morning at 11. And I said, God damn, I almost forgot. I really appreciated Herb Wesson and his staff and others for telling me to remind me. That's why I came here today. So I appreciate that. But you guys talk about being proud of your work. It's real easy how you grow crops. You get the water, you put the seed in the ground, you hire the illegal aliens to do the work at $4 an hour. That's okay, that's what they do. And then you have the big farmers who make 110% profit selling everything over to China, all those specialty crops. So what's happening is what they didn't tell you at your meeting is that a lot of people with water are now micro farming. And what they're doing is they're making specialty crops on an acre of land roughly to sell these products overseas. So your families here aren't going to get the breadbasket. More of it's going to be shipped as exports for profit, which means it will drive up the prices of local crops here. See, you don't know how that works. So you cut the water back, they'll just grow on smaller plots of land for higher margins of profit. You have the water. I drove out to Las Vegas. I went up to North County. I came back through Barstow. They're drowning in water in those deserts. There's enough water. So what you're doing is, again, you're not telling the truth. Where are they getting the water from? Did Jesus come down from heaven and give them the water? No. They've got the water in the ground, and they're getting the water off the state water projects. But you're not going to bring it here for us. So you're going to have us cut our usage down and charge us more for less, just as you've been doing for the last 100 years. Thank you.
Barbara, next speaker.
The next speaker is Herman, I believe, if I'm reading that right.
Good afternoon. Apparently, Herb Wesson forced us to this overflow room here today to argue on behalf of public interest. And that public interest is the concern regarding how utility lines, furniture of this department, DWP, has insulted many persons with disability because of your inaccuracies and your slow demeanor in really dealing with the issues on American Disability Act. When you alter a street, when you create construction, whether it's new or old, it is your responsibility to act upon the interests of persons with an individual disability, regardless of who they are, where they live, and how they encounter the problem of barriers that you create by flooding our streets with water for 2 weeks and not to fix the problem. Good example, out here in East Los Angeles, Boyle Heights, you allow the water, a water pipe, 80-year-old water pipe to run for 2 weeks off of, I believe it's Evergreen and Wabash. I usually ride public transportation, and we were redirected, detoured as you guys may call it. But on behalf, again, of the public, I want to remind you in regards to the law, which is Barden versus Sacramento, 292F, 3rd, 1073, 2002 hearing, where the judgment of the appealing judge ruled in favor of Title III and Title II of the American Disability Act against municipalities, departments, and entities who've infringed on our pathway, or as they call it, passive travel. For some of you who are elderly and don't care about the majority of elderly who are minorities, separated from the big bucks that many of you make on a daily basis, and insult those persons with disability, I find you in conflict of interest with this regard. So in matter of time, I'm reminding you that by failing to install the curb cuts because you break them up because of your utility lines and so forth, I suggest that you, again, keep in mind that when you destroy public property, private property, the use to a sidewalk and street, I say to you, fix it immediately for accessibility. Because the little man syndrome at City Hall, those public officials don't give a rat's ass about people with disability. As you've heard, that the overflow is here today because Herb Wesson denied his public comment. And I'm going to hold my time to those 2 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Okay, the third speaker is Justin Dart.
I believe I turned in his card for the record. He had to step away.
Oh, he had to step away?
Okay, thank you. The next agenda item is comments from the ratepayer advocate on agendized items, but we have 2 speaker cards on this item, so I'll call on them first. Dr. Pickle.
I will make comments on items 16, 17, and 21 at the time.
Thanks. Who are the 2 speaker cards, Barbara?
The first speaker is Adolf Hitler.
And how much time does he have remaining of his 5 minutes?
About 2:45.
Okay.
Now, the 5 minutes is comments on subject matter, not including public comment.
No, the 5 minutes is everything.
Oh, so you're going to double down on everything. Okay. Anyway, will the public ratepayer advocate please explain his position on the Marcy Darcy memorandum criticizing Ron Galperin's audit of the 2 trusts and why they support a guy charging $30-some thousand of gasoline on a credit card for a nonprofit trust that does nothing. I wonder if the ratepayer advocate feels that $11.5 million of city funds sitting there doing nothing in 2 worthless trusts is in the best interest of the ratepayers. Thank you.
Next speaker card.
I believe it might be Mr. Herman again, but there was not a name on here. It just says Ralph N. Brown Act.
And how much time does Mr. Herman have?
3 minutes, sir.
He does. He has he did about 2:45.
Okay.
Well, fine, thank you. We're getting very technical here regarding time, but I'm going to hold this to 45 seconds. And I find that the contemptuous action of this advocate doesn't appreciate the ratepayers, because if he was a true advocate on behalf of public interest, he would take the time and consideration to protect the rights of persons with disability when it comes to the gross charges of this department, DWP. Thank you.
We move to agenda item 6, which is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion? Second, those in favor?
Aye.
They're approved. The consent agenda, having deferred item 14, includes items 7 through 13. We do have 2 speaker cards on item 12, so we will take item 12 off of the consent agenda, and I'll ask whether any commissioners have any other items on the consent agenda they'd like removed. Okay, is there a motion on items 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 13? Second, those in favor?
Aye.
Those are approved. Before calling, well, on item 12, bid numbers 656A and 656B for backhoe rental with operators with D.E. Eddings and P.B. Zimmerman, 3 years without renewal options, not to exceed $20 million, $710,000. We have 2 speaker cards.
I have 4 speaker cards now.
Okay.
The first speaker is Adolf Hitler.
And how much time does he have?
He has
remaining?
about 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Okay.
Too much money, too much money, too much money. Too much money, too much money, too much money. 15 seconds to say. Too much money, too much money, too much money. And number 12. Thank you.
Okay, the second speaker is Herman Herman.
Pass.
Okay. The next speaker is Robert Cannon.
Pass.
The next speaker would be Pat Zimmerman.
Pass.
Pass. Okay.
In light of the fact that this item was on the consent calendar, is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second, those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Okay, we go to the regular agenda, and we have deferred item 15, and so we will begin the regular agenda with item 16. LADWP Springbok 2 Solar Farm Power Sales Agreement number BP 15003 and Springbok 2 Solar Farm Agency Agreement number BP 15004 with SCAPA. Real Estate License Agreement number BP 15010 with 63 SU 8ME and amended and restated Real Estate License Agreement number BP 14-16 with 62 SK 8ME LLC for the Springbok 1 Solar Farm.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm John Dennis, the Director of Power System Planning and Development. Happy to bring this project before you. We refer to it as Springbok 2. It's a 150 megawatt solar plant that's 20 miles northeast of the Mojave, California. It is a power purchase agreement at the $58.65 per megawatt hour, and it's for a 27-year agreement with a 3-year additional option to make it a total of 30 years available. Just a couple of highlights on this. As we look at this, it was selected out of 300 proposals as an addition to our portfolio. So it's a very healthy competition, and as we go through the criteria, it fits that least cost, best fit criteria. So we see on your presentation just the cost of $58.65, just reference to the Springbok 1 that's right next door. It's about 10% lower in price, but we're taking advantage of some of the infrastructure, the existing transmission capacity that's there. And this will be in service by the end of 2016. We're using some of the existing generation tie line and the substation, and it's near our existing LADWP operations and maintenance crews. And there are some future ownership options after the tax benefits expire. We'll talk about that in just a minute. This is the location outside of the city of Mojave. Again, it's along our existing transmission corridor. that was built almost 100 years ago when the Owens Valley Hydro came into the city of Los Angeles, and so we're following that same path of the transmission line. There are several other projects that are in the vicinity, including the Pine Tree Wind Farm, Pine Tree Solar, and several other projects that have come to your attention. In the northeast corner, we show the Springbok 1 and 2. And so as you can see, the development in the right-hand side, we've already agreed and approved the Springbok 1 project. The Springbok 2 is just west of that property there, as we see on slide number 4 here. And that Gen-Tie line comes into the Beacon substation. This, again, it has 150 megawatts total capacity. This will represent 1.7% as we increase to the 33% overall goals. This is an agreement that we solicited in through the Southern California Public Power Authority. This agreement came through in the solicitation process. We do have some early buyout options that are at the 15, 20, 27, and 30-year period, with floor and ceiling values at the early buyout. And again, I just want to emphasize with those options for ownership, if that was chosen and we see that the values are a good value for us, then that would be fully vetted through a board action and through council action if we would decide to take that action. Those are some of the quick highlights of the particular project. Again, we're pretty excited about this because as with this agreement in period number 2, this will help push us through. Now this comes in service next year, mid to late year of 2016, so they'll enjoy the investment tax credits that are still there, but this will put us well into the positioning for achieving the 25% goal of renewable energy in the second time period. And I'm open to any questions you may have.
Congratulations. Very, very impressive. Thank you. Are there questions by commissioners? Ratepayer advocate?
Fred Pickle, Office of Public Accountability, Ratepayer Advocate. We have reviewed this, and we had reviewed the similar Springbok 1 agreement and provided comments last August on that. We had a number of concerns on Springbok 1, but ultimately recommended it. A number of those concerns have been addressed. Actually, all but one has been addressed. We remain concerned about ceilings and floors on buyout options for these contracts because of the valuation set. But since the board can say no to these, we'd prefer future contracts not have floors or ceilings in the buyout, however. But in this case, we should move forward on this one.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Approved. Thank you. I'm told that we missed a speaker card on item 12, so we will hold that vote, which has been taken in abeyance, and ask the speaker whose card was missed to go ahead and speak.
Okay, the speaker for item 12 was Teresa Eddings.
Not here?
Teresa Eddings?
Okay, well, the vote will stand. We move to item 17, Navajo Generating Station Asset Purchase and Sale Agreement, Term Energy Transaction Confirmation Agreement, Firm Entitlement Agreement, and Energy Exchange Agreement. We have 2 speaker cards on item 17, Barbara.
Okay, the first speaker is Matt Peterson.
Matt Peterson, Chief Sustainability Officer for the Mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti. Good to be here with you this late morning and see so many great leaders in our community and this important item in front of the board. Just to speak in favor of this action, the importance of getting off of coal has long been a stance taken by this body and, of course, the City of Los Angeles. and this not only helps us and our ratepayers move towards a future that provides for generations to come in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, cleaner air, green jobs here in our basin through our investments in local solar and energy efficiency and other priorities for the department, but it also leads to the ultimate shutting down of one of the units at Navajo, which is an important action not just for our ratepayers but for the western United States. So just to commend the staff and the board for this action today and the support of the city family to move in this direction. And thank you, Marcy, for coming back at this and making sure it happened.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for coming, and thank you for being here to show your support and the mayor's support. We respect and appreciate your leadership and the mayor's leadership on these issues, and you should come by more often.
We'll make it more regular. Thank you to the leadership of the board and to Mike as well.
Okay, the next speaker is William Cochran.
Good morning, commissioners and everyone. I'm Bill Corcoran. I'm the Western Director of the Sierra Club's Beyond Coal campaign and a DWP customer. It is nearly 6 years ago that LA made a commitment to end its use of coal-fired electricity and set course on a dramatic overhaul of its generation efficiency portfolios, and remarkable progress has been made. Today you have before you a critical step forward in that progress, selling your ownership share of Navajo Generating Station. I want to take this moment to extend the Sierra Club's deep gratitude to the LADWP staff who have labored to make this utilities movement beyond coal a reality. A few words can set a utility on a different course, but it is the long labors of many individuals that make that course a reality. Staff have been clear with us for years about the transition plan from coal, and it is remarkable how well the initial plan has held up. Even if we didn't agree on every detail, we have authentically appreciated working with them. Los Angeles' scale has meant that it has a huge footprint across the West. Today, the Commission can reduce that footprint by ending its association with the Navajo Generating Station. In doing so, you are making it possible to retire one of the 3 massive boilers at this plant, which have been the focus of long-time advocacy by Navajo groups and individuals who suffer directly the destruction of coal mining, the pollution of coal combustion, and the climate disruption it contributes to. Now to the future. The transition plan pursued by LADWP for Navajo Generating Station is a good one for exiting coal, maximizing clean energy, and bringing good jobs to Los Angeles. Important programs like Repower LA and energy efficiency projects are made possible in part by the displacement of coal-fired power. The local feed-in tariff is also part of the job-creating replacement plan. The transition is a source of good represented jobs in solar and energy efficiency and has brought important economic benefits to the Moapa Band of Paiutes, on whose land stands one of the 2 solar projects, at least among many, that are part of the replacement power for Navajo Generating Station. Back here in LA, I hope you'll forgive me for a moment. I've been working on this issue since 2008. Here in LA, people in the Valley, small businesses, homeowners in South LA, renters in East LA, everyone has seen or will see benefits as we create good, clean energy jobs and grow the economy here locally. On the difficult topic of natural gas, the purchase of the Apex gas plant as an existing facility, I think is a smart transitional move for natural gas and a model that you should consider as you look toward the eventual transition from the Intermountain Power Project. By this purchase, you've avoided a 30-year investment in yet another fossil fuel, one that I believe will show price volatility going forward in the natural gas market. I would also say that when I started working on this issue, this plant was worth a lot more. I don't say that as a gotcha, but rather to underscore the importance of moving forward today. And I appreciate your indulgence for me running over time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I want to congratulate you and the Sierra Club in your Beyond Coal efforts. They've been remarkably successful, and that leadership has meant a great deal to those of us who care about these issues.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate that.
Mr. Webster.
Good morning. Mike Webster. I'm director of our Power and Fuel Purchase Division, and so I'd like to go through some of the details of this transaction. And very briefly, we currently own 21.2% of Navajo, and this transaction will reduce that share to 0. Salt River Project, who currently has a 21.7% share, they're currently the operating agent, will pick up our share, and they will have a 42.9% share of this project. at least over the next 4 years. Now, what drives us to this point is, number one, is our commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but also 1368, SB 1368, which requires a pretty extensive process to approve capital projects, and it makes it very difficult for our participation in the plant moving forward, as well as AB 32, which is the cap and trade program, is we have a pretty steep reduction in greenhouse gas emissions that are required, and this helps us with that. Now, this particular plant is located right near Lake Powell, and what we are divesting of is the plant, the rail car, as well as the mine. We retain our interest in the southern transmission system and the western transmission system, which is strategically important for our future renewables over the next decade and coming decades. And so by transitioning, in 2010, we're 40% coal. Even today, 40%. We're reducing that a bit. But by 2016, after this deal actually closes, we will be 27% coal, which is a 25% reduction. So it represents a significant reduction in our GHG emissions. And then by 2025, as we work through IPP and repowering of IPP, we will be zero coal at that point in time. And the Sierra Club was right. We've been planning this for 6 years. And so what we have is we have cut contracts for 2 solar projects. The first one, Copper Mountain, is now fully operational, and it comes in on that transmission line. The Moapa solar project is in construction. The tabletops are going in. The panels are about ready to start going in. By the end of the year, we will have 250 megawatts of solar, again, coming in on that line that becomes available with this sale. And we purchased the Apex natural gas plant to basically integrate those renewables on the transmission line. So we are prepared for this, and the net result is that you can see the red line. This is the line that basically is our allocation of GHG under the cap and trade program, and we drop to the blue line through this divestiture, and we save 6 million metric tons in doing so. Now, it was very important for us to go through some pretty significant financial evaluation. And so we did really 3 evaluations. One, an internal. We worked with our wholesale group, our integrated resource planning group, and our financial services to do our own internal rate impact analysis. We also have Goldman Sachs, who's representing us on the deal as our broker. They've also done an analysis. But I think the third and most important is we hired Public Financial Management. This is an independent firm that does a lot of work with our financial services organization, and they have completed a study on the financial implications. All the studies point the same direction. There's a significant rate savings through the sale of this plant. And what we've been up against is that in 2009, the power prices were quite high. We were in the $55 range, but over the course of time, it's dropped to just a shade over $30 a megawatt hour, and that's what the market is seeing today. And that's driven by several things. One, with energy efficiency, it's really knocked a lot of load off the system. Also, we've seen tremendous renewables being integrated into the system. And that also helps reduce the impact of natural gas production. And last is the natural gas prices have dropped significantly with the production that we've seen. And so we can't fight this market. The market is what it is, and we're trying to do the best for our ratepayers. When you look at the total picture, it's not only the market, but it's the cost. It's the cost of the plant is also going up. And so when you look at the cost of the plant, this is the actual value. When we started in 2009, it was worth $300 million. But today, we actually see a value of negative about $100 million if we were to hang on to this facility. And so the deal that's before you today is that we think that the rate impact will only be 0.5%, and that is primarily driven by the fact that we are trading coal for geothermal energy. If we were to keep the plant, the rate impact would be 2% to our ratepayers. So the deal terms are this, is that at closing, we receive $10 million. However, we recognize that the market is quite low. And so we thought, if the market were to rebound, could we participate in that rebound? And so we built into it a fair market value at the end of 2019. So if this market actually goes up to what we had seen before, we participate in that upside 50%, 50%, 50% for us, 50% for SRP. So we get some upside value. We share a little bit of the downside value. It's possible that the $10 million gets a little bit less, but we're capped at no more than a $9 million shave off of that. So no matter what, we walk away with $1 million. However, when we look at market prices, it's hard to imagine the markets going lower than they are today with where we're seeing natural gas forecasts. We get recognition for the settlement of the Peabody coal mine settlement. This is related to workers' medical care for the future and retirement costs. So we get recognition of that while SRP owns the plant. We get to retain all of the greenhouse gas credits that have been allocated to us by the state of California under AB 32. We keep the transmission rights. And this is important, especially on the next one where you see El Dorado transmission, because it really sets us up for increased renewables in the future as we can bring more from the Southwest. We'll have to make some investments in our transmission, but strategically that's very important when you're looking at 10, 20, 30 years to maintain those transmission rights, as well as a share of the Mojave project, which we may be able to use that land for other generation resources in the future. Most importantly is we get geothermal resource between now and 2021, which helps us shore up compliance period 3 renewables requirements. That's very important, especially as you see the very, very low hydro this year, last year, is it has an impact on our renewables for our small hydro. So this helps reduce some of the risk of low hydro in future years. And most importantly, or nearly as important, is that we are going to work towards the complete shutdown of one unit. And SRP is committed to working that direction. So we permanently can reduce power from this facility after 2019. So it has the lowest retail rates. We reduce greenhouse gas emissions and we maintain our leadership. We get geothermal resource. It's the lowest cost solution. And we stay true to our integrated resource plan, which takes years and years and years to develop and implement. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to you for your leadership and hard work and great results on this. Questions, comments?
Comments?
Comment.
Okay.
Commissioner Noonan for a comment?
Thank
or
you.
2 or 3?
Not too long, I promise. Well, this goal was targeted many years ago. Although our department will realize less money for our partnership in this real estate asset, I understand that many variables and partners were involved in this equation. And I appreciate your staff keeping us apprised all the way along, because that really helps make this more feasible for us. That said, I think involving Goldman Sachs was the right thing to do. They're a neutral third-party entity, and I think they provide credence to execute this transaction. By accepting this action, I think we are, as Angelino's, leading the path to exterminate coal use prior to the goals that we had set out for. And so I'm very, very happy to make a motion.
Well, before we do the motion, let's see if there are other comments. Dr. Pickle.
We've reviewed the materials and believe that this transaction is reasonable. It's a necessary step to implement the strategy that was started years ago. Although others have followed our lead and it's reduced in part the value of this, also lower natural gas prices have reduced the value, we think it's appropriate to move ahead now.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Item 18, California State Auditor recommendations on LADWP customer information system.
Thank you. Dave Wright, Power Systems Senior Assistant General Manager. On March 10th, the state auditor released a report covering the conversion to our new customer information system, and that report made 3 recommendations. And those recommendations were that the board should consider establishing a standing subcommittee to review the status of any major IT conversions, that we should develop reporting standards on those IT conversions, and that we should develop a process for identifying major IT projects. And it's probably easier to take these in reverse order, but as staff, we believe that there already is a process to identify major IT projects, and those items that come to the board. Any item over $150,000 already comes to the board, so they would be identified for you to become aware of those major projects. So that system really is already in place. We are looking at creating a system of metrics and have started that process in very preliminary fashion and are looking at what other utilities are doing and what tools are already out there in the industry that we could bring forward to, again, create those metrics, create a dashboard, and create those measurements that would be available for the board and the public to review. So we're looking at that, and we will plan on bringing that as staff to the board at a later date. And then the last item is really the board has to determine whether they would like to consider establishing that standing subcommittee. And just as a reminder, a subcommittee really cannot have a majority, so it would mean 2 board members, and that would be a Brown Act committee. It would be a committee that would be subject to those rules and regulations of posting and advance notification. So that really is what today the board may determine they want to discuss. And with that, would be happy to answer any questions, though I would like to say this report does request that the board consider voting to delegate the board chair to sign any of the response letters that we send in the future to the state auditor, and that they would like a follow-up at 6 months and 12 months. They requested a follow-up at 60 days, which we let them know we would be bringing these items to the board, and have sent that first initial letter to the board. So
the resolution allows for the establishment of the standing committee, but does not create that committee.
Correct. It's something, if you wanted to adopt that resolution, you could, but that is, your discussion would be whether or not to adopt that resolution to establish.
I actually think, Dave, he's talking about a different point. Looking at the language of the reso, if they vote on it, it simply allows them the mechanism to create it, or it requires them to create it, is his question.
It allows the establishment, but I don't know if legal might want to also chime in on that.
Morning, Commissioners. Dirk Burrs from the City Attorney's Office. The resolution as written does establish a standing committee.
Why don't we take a friendly amendment that allows which is sort of unnecessary, but allows the commission to establish it at a later date if it so wishes.
Fine.
Which is probably unnecessary, but I don't think we're prepared to make that decision today. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second. In favor?
Aye.
It's approved with the amendment. Thank you. Item 19. Fiscal year 2015-2016 LADWP final budget, power revenue fund receipts and appropriations and associated schedules, and fiscal year 15-16 annual personnel resolution.
I would ask that we take 19 and 20 together, sir.
Okay, and 20 is fiscal year 2015-16 final budget, water revenue fund, etc.
Good afternoon, President Levine, Honorable Commissioners, Neil Guglielmo with the Financial Services Organization. So this is our third time actually coming to you before your board for the 15-16 proposed budget. We've presented to you the preliminary budget back in March, and we have presented on the final budget earlier this month at the first board meeting. Before you today are the complete documents to transmit to the mayor and the city council for our fiscal year 15-16 budget. And I do have slides from the previous presentation if you'd like us to go through that again. Otherwise, I'd just like to indicate that upon approval by the end of this month, we will transmit all documents as required under the charter to the mayor and the city council, and that the budget reflects the priorities that you have all identified for us, as well as the priority outcome areas as identified by the Mayor Garcetti. Also, we have another presentation will be coming afterwards from PA Consulting. They have also had an opportunity to review our 5-year budget plans and have performed analysis on the revenue requirements, and we'll be making a presentation on that next. So if you like, we can walk through some of the slides again, or I'm here happy to answer any questions you may have.
Comments, questions?
In my opinion, I think for those who have not had the opportunity to review the documents that we have as a board, would you specifically address what we are doing to really focus our revenues on water conservation and infrastructure?
Certainly we can do that. Reggie, if you can bring up the presentation. Okay. I'm going to go and skip through some of these earlier slides then and just move towards, I think, a section that will highlight some of that for you. And obviously I'm joined by my colleagues, David Wright and Marty Adams. They can feel free to jump in any time if you guys want to emphasize any of the work that's being done on the conservation efforts. This is just some of our accomplishments on the power system side. I'll skim through those. Some of the highlights, the major projects that we're doing. Okay, if you turn to the, this will be slide 20 of the presentation deck. It's the Power Revenue Fund Capital Expenditures Trend. What you see at the top there is the top left corner, the Customer Opportunities Program. You can see where we're at currently, and you can see the projected level of expenditures out those 5 years. And if you can just take a quick look at that, you'll notice that there's a significant increase in the investment in capital for the customer opportunity programs. I'm sorry. Also, you'll see what's the customer opportunity programs, the customer service investments that are also being made within that proposed 5-year plan. The capital investment from the approved level to the 1920 is going up considerably.
May I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
I think, and really, I mean, I promise you I've reviewed the documents, and I appreciate you being so tenacious and giving us so many details, but I'm just thinking about the public.
Okay.
And it always surprised me how many people, attend these board meetings or watch them on TV. So if you think about all of our funding, can you just speak in an executive summary form how much money we're giving towards water conservation, infrastructure, versus renewables? I think a big picture, just overview would be helpful.
Sure. So the investment for water conservation and infrastructure is significant. For the infrastructure program, we're going to see is an investment of additional $30 million, primarily for distribution mains and trunk lines, just for the next fiscal year alone. For local water supply, we're increasing the funding for recycling water by about $36 million, groundwater remediation about $12 million, conservation $16 million, and stormwater capture about $7 million. All in, it's about $75 million of additional investment just towards local water supply and remediation efforts.
And how much has that increased by last year?
The increase is $75 million going from the approved budget of the current year towards the proposed budget next year.
And percentage-wise?
Percentage-wise, you're going to see a change of...
because we hear
I would say about
we're bombarded by,
more
water
than
conservation.
60%. It's a significant increase. What you have is the approved budget for 14-15 of roughly $118 million, and we're increasing to just over $190 million in 1 year. So we're going from 118 to 192. So it's a significant additional investment in that local water supply funding.
If I could comment, some of those investments are, both in conservation areas that are for customer base, but there's also investments in projects for things such as recycling. So from the capital standpoint, a lot of it depends on where the projects fall in line. So what we're seeing is these recycling projects that have been on the books are starting to hit the street and be constructed in a, we've been doing a lot, but we're doing more and more. So we are seeing a growth in that area. Just like with the infrastructure, there's over $250 million of infrastructure work going on. So there's an increase in there, but there's already been a substantial baseline that we have had going on year to year. So we have both what we've been doing and then the increases above that. But then again, like things like all the local water supply issues, a lot of those are capital projects that are now starting to hit the street in terms of construction. And so we're seeing the real dollars start to hit kind of the fruition, of all the efforts that we've had in the planning and design phases up to this date.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I just try and bring this in terms of a big picture overview because we receive these news titles saying, a main pipe broke and, all of this water springing out at the same token. We don't want you watering your gardens on certain days. And so I think it's very important for the public to really recognize how we are deciding to delegate our revenue. Yeah, so thank you for that.
No problem. And just over that 5-year period, if you look at the total trend line for capital spend for the water system, it's roughly a 22% increase overall for infrastructure and for capital. And the local water supply alone is increasing significantly as well, up to approximately $480 million by the end of the 5-year period, that 1920. So,
thank you.
Other comments? Other questions?
I had one comment and one question. The question is for Marty. I know we talked to Marty about on Owens. Is there any way our budget could show in comments or elsewhere the avoided costs of all of the labor and the legal that we are avoiding as a result of entering into that agreement? I think it's I don't want to call attention to it and just put a big highlighter on it, but I do want it to be noted in some footnote or something so that it can be recognized. Otherwise, there's no way of capturing the benefit, and when we get questioned about why we did it, then I think it's a good way of answering it. And so I'm just saying it for the benefit. And if there is one, I believe there is, but I just want your comments on it.
I think that's a very good point. It's hard to show avoided costs in the budget, but maybe we could have some kind of footnote, because with every project we choose, we're always trying to choose the least cost alternative. And we never were able to highlight the savings that we've had. Even projects such as the Headworks project resulted in tens of millions of dollars of savings, as it did the Shade Balls at LA Reservoir was hundreds of millions of dollars. Certainly at Owens Lake, we probably have about $1 billion of savings. And yet, in the budget, we show $123 million increase for the master project and the Phase 9-10 project. This is one change versus when you saw this in early March. So this is the updated numbers. But you're right, we don't have an avenue real cleanly to show the tremendous savings we have by making that decision. So we'll work on trying to portray that better.
We'll have that for the record, yeah.
And then there's another thing that's more of a comment than a question, and that is in the staffing plan, which I've made comments on before, we're still at having to replace 25% of our workforce, about 24, something like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm still interested in knowing just geographically where these people are coming from. I'd like to see as many people as possible, as feasible, with demonstrated outreach and documented outreach, come from South LA, South Central LA, and East LA, the areas of the city that are most economically deprived. So I really, and it's more than just, I did get a commissioner report on our apprentice program, but that's moving toward in the right direction, but those numbers are 15 or 20 per year, and yeah, they start to add up, but we're talking about numbers that are 2 orders of magnitude greater here. And I think that it's important. They're ratepayers there too, and I think that it's important that we document, that we
reach out and that we show that these jobs are being made available to that constituency, and not just made available, but aggressively sought out. So again, I don't know if that's a budget item or if that's you for the management to decide, but
It's really a multi-pronged answer. Probably the one point I would make is that in a civil service system, there's a lot of these aspects that are outside of our immediate control. Yes. We have been working with the personnel department on trying to change these bulletins such that it would allow more people to be successful in taking and passing a civil service exam. It's one of the important parts of the utility pre-craft training program is that we bring them in advance and spend up to 2 years trying to get them to a point to where they can be competitive in those exams. But I agree with you, sir. We'll try to continue to do more.
is there a way of expanding the pre-craft training? The pre-craft training program, the way I see it, it's like test prep. It's like
That's
SAT
pretty
test
much
prep
what it
for
is.
DWP. And it's a great idea. Maybe, I don't know if the board's been briefed on it, the details recently. Again, this is not this budget, obviously. This has to go and get done. But I want to make sure that it's viewed as an earlier priority in the next budget cycle, because I think that there may be some things that we can do that in the next fiscal year to make some headway and stronger headway, especially in these underserved areas.
Understood, Commissioner. I would just add that there is a report back that is being prepared by the Human Resources Group, and they're coordinating with the operational organizations. So I'll make sure to pass on your comments to them as we're working on this effort, so that when we come back and respond to initial request, we provide additional information.
Yeah, I'm specifically interested in the geographic numbers of where our employees are, very specifically, and compared to current, compared to past, and where we are looking at going in the future. Okay. Thanks.
Other questions, other comments? Dr. Pickle?
Not at this time. I'll have some comments on the revenue requirements evaluation.
Can we combine motions and take 19 and 20 together? Is there a motion to approve them both?
So moved.
Second, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we will then move to item 21, which is the 5-year budget forecast and projected revenue requirements with an independent analysis by PA Consulting. Madam General Manager.
Thank you, sir. The next item on the agenda is a report on an independent analysis of the department's 5-year budget forecast and projected revenue requirements by PA Consulting. Wayne Lafferty, energy, water, and financial expert at PA, will make the presentation. As you know, as part of our budget development for this year, our water and power staff, along with customer service staff, have been looking ahead and putting together plans for the next 5 years to ramp up our investment in infrastructure, continue our power supply transformation, invest in local water supplies and conservation, and improve customer service while keeping our rates competitive with other agencies. An important part of that effort is better understanding and a better explanation to the public how we compare to other utilities and where the industry as a whole is going. Phase 1 of the benchmarking report that was presented to you last month was an important step in this process to give you and the public a baseline by which to measure the department across key metrics such as reliability, affordability, and cost competitiveness. Today you'll hear more from Mr. Lafferty about how DWP compares to other utilities and about the issues and trends affecting the industry as a whole. PA has conducted a review of our 5-year spending plan as well, which Mr. Lafferty will also discuss. His presentation will illustrate how our spending plans in the proposed 15-16 budget, ramping up investment in critical infrastructure, continuing to transform our water and power supplies, how all of this translates into revenue requirement. In other words, how much money do we need from our customers to pay for the investments that we are proposing? Following today's presentation, we would then prepare a proposal to share with the board and the public about how much this additional revenue requirement would cost our customers and how we would structure it in a way to continue to encourage conservation by our customers. And with that, Wayne, you go ahead.
Thank you. And Mr. President, and board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today on this matter. I've got several things that I intend to talk about a little bit today. First of all, to sort of set the perspective on the assignment that PA is undertaking with the department. Second of all, just talk quickly about some of the initiatives, many of which you've probably already heard about, so I'll go through that fairly quickly. But I think importantly, talk about some of the industry trends which are impacting the revenue requirements and the budgets for agencies such as the Department of Water and Power and others throughout California. Then specifically talk about the revenue requirement itself for water and for power, and then just close with a few trends on where rates seem to be heading in California and elsewhere to sort of put everything in perspective for you. The objectives of our assignment have covered several areas, starting with the cost of service studies. We've been involved in helping begin the benchmarking effort that the general manager mentioned. We've done an analysis of the revenue requirements. We've been working on some of the different rate design alternatives, which are still work in progress. Rate action reports that we've been working on for the ratepayer advocate, which are still a work in progress. And I'll mention is there has been several presentations made to the ratepayer advocate and a chance to share preliminary thoughts there. And also looking at different industry trends that are taking place that are impacting rates in California and throughout the country. Specifically related to the revenue requirement analysis, we've looked at the financial plans to make sure that they do reflect the budget, that they do meet the financial metrics or allow meeting the financial metrics that are approved by the board, and do so in a way that the programs are proceed forward while also looking for ways to minimize the ratepayer impact and customer rate impact and customer bill impact of the programs. Make sure that regulatory mandated obligations are met. Make sure that infrastructure improvements and investments are designed and part of the programs do help move towards industry standards for asset replacement and the age of the plant. Develop cost of service studies based off industry standards. As I mentioned, board-approved financial metrics, make sure those are maintained, and make sure that some of the guiding legal principles that address rates and revenue requirements are followed. I'll just very quickly talk about some of the initiatives. I think that some of these have already been alluded to in earlier comments today, but similar to other utilities, LADWP has undertaken many initiatives based off of meeting council recommendations, improving operations and financial performance on a system-wide basis, and also specifically for water and power in areas such as water conservation, which was discussed earlier in some of the questions, energy efficiency, and a whole host of other areas. And those initiatives and the impacts are addressed through the revenue requirements and will continue to be addressed on a going forward basis. One of the set of initiatives that was undertaken was in response to council recommendations from the last power rate action. There were 10 major recommendations that were issued by the council. I think, and LADWP has undertaken efforts in all 10 areas to help contribute to cost efficiencies, accountability, and benchmarking. I can go through those in as much detail as you want, but I think that I'll just highlight a couple of the important ones. Obviously, there was a recommendation from the council to look at some of the flexibility in the labor agreements. That has been completed. There are several ongoing efforts related to benchmarking and other cost efficiencies that are completed from the standpoint that they've been started, but I think it's important to note that those are ongoing, and some of those are are projects and programs that will take place over a longer period of time, so that the department and its customers will continue to benefit from those programs. They're not just, you don't start it one day and end it 2 weeks later. Some of those are ongoing, which is why it's reflected that way on the slide on a lot of the efficiency efforts. Also, the effort there on the top right related to the surcharge-based approach, that has been investigated in conjunction with the city attorney's office and is reflected in the revenue requirement, and will be reflected in the rate structure on a going forward basis unless so advised differently by the attorneys. So I've highlighted a few of the items there. I'd be happy to highlight more if that's appropriate. I think that this has probably been presented in some way in the past, but we have confirmed that those recommendations have been met and, to the extent necessary, are ongoing. Another area of interest that we've looked at is the cost reduction plan that was initiated 3 years ago with the effort of, before rates or revenue requirements are increased, that appropriate actions are taken. The department undertook a series of cost reduction efforts back in 2011 related to labor, non-labor, and capital, and we have confirmed that those efforts have in total been met. But we've also confirmed that there's other cost reduction efforts that are in place and continuing in areas such as the use of shade balls for reservoir covers down there at the bottom, improvements to improve the efficiency and the output of the Castaic power plant, the use of solar facilities, and additional controls on capital projects to ensure that the resources are most efficiently used. The new labor agreement, which I alluded to earlier, is reflected in the revenue requirements and is expected to provide $456 million in savings over the next several years, and the potential, depending on how future negotiations go, to provide up to $5 billion in savings over 30 years. You can see the breakdown there, which is how the $456 million is derived. The impact of that agreement is fully reflected in the revenue requirement. As I mentioned earlier, LADWP, with assistance from PA and others, has started to undertake some benchmarking initiatives. I understand that the board has been presented some of the results of that initial effort in detail earlier, so I won't go into it in extensive detail here. But specifically on the water system side, the purpose of the benchmarking, really for both water and power, is to, at this initial level, to determine what areas are where things are going well and what areas which over the longer term should have additional analysis. And as you can see there specifically for the water system, the O&M cost per customer is a little bit below the mid-range, but it is somewhat in the middle. Same thing when you look at O&M costs on a million-gallon distributed basis. We have noted in the study that the customer service costs per account do appear to be in the lower quartile, and that's probably an area that over the longer term should be investigated in more detail.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, sure.
How much would it take to increase our customer service to the median? How much are you saying it would take to increase our customer service to the median benchmark?
I don't have the exact amount, but if you look at it there, if you look at the large utility company number, and I can switch the slide back for everybody. Currently, LADWP is at $71.53. If you look at approximate midpoint of between the second and third quartile of 53.43, you would have to move at that distance to reach the middle of the road. However, I believe before making that decision that additional investigation and analysis is probably required. As you're going to see in a couple of minutes on the power system side, the relationship is a little bit different. So I think you need to dig into those numbers more before we say, okay, if you move it by $3 per account, you're going to move to the middle of the road, because there's also programs that are underway that may, sometimes moving these costs in the way, to the midpoint has unintended consequences. And I think you need to look at that also at the same time, and to make sure that some of the programs that are designed to improve the customer service are not discarded or de-emphasized just because you're trying to hit a target. But I don't have, the specific to your question, I don't know the exact number, but that is, to do what you're asking would be to move it from the bottom.
If I could interrupt for just a moment. The issue between we spend too much on distribution and we don't spend enough on customer service.
Right.
So it's related to a variety of issues, not the least of which is philosophically, in the large investor-owned utilities, they put more money into marketing and customer service, but less into their distribution systems. We do it the other way around. We put more into keeping the system reliable and less into marketing and talking about it. We need to get down another level or two into the specifics of the staffing, et cetera, in order to figure out how we want to adjust this equation. But this is one of those items that was initially highlighted in the benchmarking that is absolutely deserving of additional study. So please don't think this is the end of the discussion.
And I guess, speaking of the end of the discussion, how long would it take to get this additional study done to get to a point where we're closer to deciding how we are going to improve our customer experience?
Could you very quickly review the timeline for Phase 2 and Phase 3 of benchmarking? Thank you.
Jeff Peltola, Director of Corporate Performance. So we're in the process now of receiving feedback on Phase 1. Probably towards the end of this calendar year, beginning of next calendar year is when we'll have the second phase done, which is what Marcy's identifying. We'll look at the number of people, the cost of the various functions and sub-functions that we have to balance between distribution and customer service. So it's something that's certainly happen within a year.
It's important to note that it's not necessarily sequential.
Right.
As an example, we have J.D. Power in, who's working with customer service now on best practices. So you'll see improvement at the same time as we make an effort to quantify it and what we're going to adjust. So it's not going to take that long to see other changes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Wayne. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, the next area I'll just highlight briefly from the initial benchmarking results is on the power system side. As you'll see, the total O&M per customer is actually above the median in the second quartile, which is actually a very good measure, at least on an overall basis, of the level of spending and the level of efficiencies in the power system. That holds true whether you look at large utilities across the United States or just in the western region. Similarly, on the when you look at another way to look at it, though, is to look at the distribution capital expenditures as compared to depreciation expense. And as I said earlier, sometimes you have sort of unintended consequences of good results. And in this specific situation here, LADWP does look to be better than the median. However, that also could be an indication of underspending in the areas of infrastructure over time. So that's sort of just helps to. Sometimes things look good, but they may not be good because you're just sort of punting the ball down the road, down the field, so to speak, and creating problems later. That's why I wanted to highlight that. From the customer service expense standpoint, actually, let me back up. On here, what we're showing is that the distribution area appears in isolation to offer opportunities for improvement. But as we were just speaking about earlier, sometimes when you improve things in one area, you may have unintended consequences elsewhere, which is why additional analysis is needed in this area. Because unlike on the water side, on the customer service, for the power system, the customer service expenses appears to be fairly low. And there are several things, including the focus earlier that was mentioned on the investor-owned utilities tend to be spending a lot more efforts in the marketing and in the customer area as opposed to the distribution area, which probably explains part of the results here. But it's why I was hesitant earlier to say you need to move it by just a certain, you can fix everything by moving it by a set amount of dollars, because you need to look at all the various pieces, because when you move things in one area, it may move things in another direction elsewhere that you're not in an unintended manner. Operationally, the power system has benchmarked well. Again, I think that Southern California tends to benchmark well in this area because the weather is certainly more cooperative than ice storms and snowstorms in the Northeast and the Midwest part of the country. However, earlier I mentioned that the capital expenditures appeared to be maybe trending lower than others. So I think we have to look at these in isolation and make sure that we don't say, okay, everything's great from an operational reliability standpoint, and we just push the problem down the road, because history would suggest that aging infrastructure does impact these results, that there's just a lag impact on when that happens. Briefly, I want to talk about some industry trends in the water industry, which I think are driving the revenue requirements for LADWP. The department is no different than a lot of other utilities, especially in California and elsewhere in the country. The response to the drought is a major factor. Obviously, the aging infrastructure we've talked about is a factor. Regulatory mandates are a factor. I won't go into all the different legal requirements, but those impact all other utilities too. So the message is that from a standpoint of industry trends and how it impacts water utilities, LADWP is facing some of the same exact challenges and opportunities faced elsewhere in California by other utilities. Similarly, from the power system standpoint, the challenges and opportunities that are faced and are addressed in the revenue requirements and in the budget plans, the financial plans for the department are very similar to other utilities in the state. The regulatory mandates for eliminating once-through cooling in the power plants, the renewable energy targets, energy efficiency goals. The department has company all across the state of California and looking for ways to successfully meet these mandates and meet these challenges and requirements while maintaining minimizing the impact on customer bills. Now moving to the revenue requirement analysis, and starting with the water system. The increased revenue requirement, 95% of what is proposed is related to the current year, will be non-labor expense. You can see the chart there, and you can see significantly how the focus is. That will help to generate a significant amount of economic development, economic business development in the area, to the tune of, based off some studies that were done by the Los Angeles, I always say this wrong, the Economic Development Corporation, and I believe also similar studies done by UCLA and other organizations that could result in 18,000 more jobs and significant amount of economic activity. So I think it's important to put it in perspective on where the revenue requirement is going. And specifically here talking about the water, on the water side. Now, if you look at the current revenues today, based off an analysis of the financial plans and the budgets that are underlying that, and looking at the major programs, the water system revenues are not expected to cover the revenue requirement over the next 5 years. As you can see, the tops of the bar charts there are higher than the red line, which represents the current revenue requirement. The big driver of the change and the gap has to do with mandated programs and infrastructure and planned infrastructure programs. And as you can see, the gap increases over time. Some of the major drivers of that, which will ultimately cause a shortfall of $90 million on average in revenue requirement over the next 5 years, are, as you can see, top of the list: infrastructure, continued water quality programs, local water programs in groundwater, stormwater capture, recycled water, et cetera. And you can see there both the revenue requirement impact and also the 5-year total spend estimate, total revenue requirement in that area. You can see both the average per year and the total. And you can see there in the chart at the top right how it sort of breaks down, but it's the most important message I think here is that a significant amount of this, and the same will hold for power in a minute, is focused on infrastructure. And the revenue requirements should allow the department to meet water quality mandates, increase local water supply, and increase the infrastructure reliability in a measured manner. You can see there how the imported water through the Metropolitan Water District, which is one of the more expensive sources of water, is expected to decrease over time as a result of the increased revenue requirement. You can also see where the replacement cycle for pipes and mainline is expected to decrease, and those are the areas that are most targeted by the increased revenue requirement. Similar analysis on the power system revenue requirement. 80% of the increase between the current fiscal year and 5 years out and the combination of O&M capital is expected to be from non-labor, which will help, similar to what we talked about on the water side, will help to stimulate jobs and economic development in the region. You'll also see very similar trends as far as how the types of programs that the money is expected to be spent on. Before I go into that, let me talk briefly about the gap. As you can see here, similar to the water side, based off our analysis of the financial plan and the underlying budgets and the major programs which are going to be funded by the increased revenue requirement, the current revenues will not cover the revenue requirement, and the gap is slowly increasing over time. But again, the focus of that increase is on infrastructure and on mandated programs such as the elimination of the once-through cooling. Here, similar to what I showed on the water, we've looked at the revenue requirement and what is driving the increase. Again, infrastructure at the top. Energy efficiency programs are a large focus for the department, and are expected to deliver significant numbers of savings in gigawatt-hour usages. So it's sort of one of your supply programs. It's not a supply program because it's power that never has to be produced. So you see there both the revenue requirement impact on an average annual basis, and you can see the revenue requirement on an impact over the 5-year period. The revenue requirement should allow the department to continue to meet its renewable energy mandates, increase infrastructure reliability, as well as meet the requirements as shown on the lower left there from the schedule that has been negotiated for the replacement of the once-through cooling for the in-basin power plants within the timeline that's been set out by the regulatory agencies. But I think very importantly down there, we also showed that the number of poles over 50 years is decreasing significantly through the increased revenue requirement. The average age will still be a little bit over 50 years, but it's a little bit over 60 years today. So the program's allowing a significant movement towards what would be more common for asset management in the industry. Let me just close with a couple observations on industry rate trends, both first for water and then for power. LADWP has not had a base rate increase for its water rates in over 5 years. However, as you can see there, other California cities have already announced various plans to increase rates over the next several years, and those increases are expected to continue across the industry because of things like the drought management, the regulatory mandates, the aging infrastructure. But as based on our analysis, we would predict that the impact on LADWP's customers, as far as comparatively speaking to other utilities, will continue to have a fairly favorable position, even when even once the new revenue requirements are taken into consideration. On the power side, LADWP has not had a base rate increase for 3 of the last 5 years. As you can see, other utilities in California, power utilities, have been increasing rates and have even made announcements or are expected to make announcements for additional rate increases. Same message is that the same issues are impacting them that are impacting the department, and that we would anticipate that the favorable position from a customer bill impact scenario that the department has today would continue to be the case in the future. So in summary, we believe that LADWP's revenue requirement is it's been developed based off a comprehensive budget and financial plan, and it's been developed in a manner that balances the needs of various programs from a reliability infrastructure standpoint, as well as from a legal and regulatory standpoint. The major rate drivers between on the water and power are clearly focused on infrastructure and meeting regulatory requirements, and that the revenue requirements are developed in such a way that funding these programs can be done in such a way that the customer rate implications are kept to a minimum, and that LADWP continues to have favorable rate or bill impacts compared to other cities in California that it has today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lafferty. Based on your presentation and the remarks by our general manager, I believe the next step is to ask staff to bring forward a proposal to set forth in detail the 5-year investments and corresponding costs to our customers. But before I do that, I'd like to pose a few questions to our staff. I guess I'll pose them through you, Madam General Manager. How critical is it that we begin this process of review and consideration of a revenue increase, and what would happen if we delayed this for a year?
Certainly a reasonable question, sir. At this juncture, given the timelines we're under, particularly for once through cooling, for other mandates such as the renewable portfolio, we will not be able to make those levels in fairly short order. Further, we won't have the money to be able to hold up the board-approved financial metrics, which means that borrowing ostensibly could get much more expensive, and you've heard about some of the significant capital expenses we're efforting to make, so raising borrowing costs would be problematic as well.
If we begin this process in the near future, how long would it be before any proposal to increase revenue would be brought before the board for action?
Approximately 4 to 6 months, and then the additional time for council and mayoral review.
And will staff consider how to better incentivize conservation in the proposal that is brought to us for review?
We find it critical that particularly in the water side, but also in power, that we carefully adjust rates so that we're sending a strong conservation message. There is a lot of outstanding litigation in that area, and so our legal staff continues to review that and will adjust the proposal accordingly.
Thank you. To begin this process, I believe it's appropriate to direct staff to bring forward to the board in 30 days a plan that clearly sets forth the needed investments in infrastructure, the continuation of the DWP's power supply transformation to meet various legal and environmental mandates, to invest in local water supply, and improve customer service. The plan should compare our water and power rates to those of other utilities, including the comparative information presented today, and show how we will keep our rates low for our customers and be competitive. It should also clearly show how much new revenue will be spent on infrastructure and supply versus labor, and explain the impacts on our customers, both residential and commercial. It should also explain how staff will go about doing outreach to our customers about the proposal and set forth the time frame for its consideration. Ms. Edwards, do you feel the staff can be ready with such a proposal in the next 30 days?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, are there questions from other members?
I have some comments, if that's okay. So there's no doubt that given our state and federal mandates, as well as what's transpiring with infrastructure and water conservation efforts, that there's no doubt we will have to increase water rates. That being said, I really believe that our departments and mayor's mantra and platform is that of transparency. So I really feel compelled, just on my own integrity, to state the following. I appreciate the data and recommendations you shared, but on record once again, I do not understand why our department chose not to partner with a neutral third-party expert consultant instead of PA consultants. I feel that PA consultants have had many conflicts of interest representing the department, the unions, as well as the city, and I feel that we have so many other independent expert resources at our disposal, which I really wish our department would engage with in the near future. So I don't know if that's possible within 30 days, but just so I can sleep well tonight, I have to state that on the record.
Thank you. Other comments, other questions from commissioners? Dr. Pickle.
The ratepayer advocate strongly supports beginning a rate review. The industry standard is that rate reviews every 3 years. It is frightfully difficult to forecast in the water business more than 6 months, and the power business certainly more than 3 years. And it's important we walk through this analysis in a transparent way. The Office of Public Accountability will be retaining outside independent third-party consultants to offer some insight into what PA may be doing. And there are, even at this stage, important things to understand in these proposals as they stand, but we absolutely support moving forward. One is any forecast requires you pick a starting point. And that starting point isn't all up to date in terms of what your spending, success in spending your whole budget has or has not been. Furthermore, all of these assumptions are based on assumptions about water, and the forecasts here are based on a normal hydrologic year. And gas prices as best we knew them when these numbers were put together. Gas market moves up and down frequently and rapidly. And the other utility processes update their submissions through errata and other approaches as they move forward. So we shouldn't say we've absolutely locked this in. We should be prepared to change what we're doing in the review process. And that doesn't mean we should lock in a budget and stick with it. An example of where we should keep reviewing what we're doing is on the topic of outsourcing reviews, and a good example is local solar. A component of the local solar program is utility-built local solar or small-scale solar. DWP's past experience in that area has not been very good. We just saw Springbok 2 proposed for under 6 cents a kilowatt hour, but the most recent intermediate scale utility built solar was 60 cents a kilowatt hour. And the additional foregoing projects are forecast to be over 36 cents per kilowatt hour. So I suggest the board ask to look at local solar projects built by DWP to make sure they're competitive with at least feed-in tariff or net metering costs, if not the larger scale solar projects. But to close, I think we should move forward with a rate review on both water and power.
Thank you, Dr. Pickle. Dr. Pickle, are you getting the information you need from our staff?
Yes.
I would move that staff bring forward a proposal to meet the revenue requirements set forth by the PA analysis in 30 days. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor? Aye.
I'm against. I think it requires more time.
Were you and I?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. 3-1, Barbara, with Commissioner Noonan voting against. We would move to closed session, but there are a few speaker cards on several closed session items, and so we will hear from the speakers within the prescribed time limits on those matters, and then we will ask counsel for guidance in terms of going to closed session. So the first item on which there are 2 speaker cards is item 22A1, the Powerhouse Fire Incident.
Okay, the first speaker is Adolf Hitler.
How much time does the gentleman have remaining, Barbara?
2 minutes, 15 seconds.
The 2-year anniversary of the fire is this month. Hundreds of people's homes burnt, destroyed. The only thing left is foundations. I filed my claim a year ago. Not a word. Now you're going to talk about it. You call it the incident. It's not an incident. It's a tragedy from an old, worn-out fire pole that you call a utility pole that fell down in the 70-mile-per-hour wind that was there at the turn of the century that you put up. You go outside the city, you generate the power, you sell it back to us at a premium, and then in the middle of it you burn down a whole forest. But it's been 2 years. Now you're going to have a discussion about it. My claim is there. Your little lawyer buddy last time took my information down. No offer. Liability is not an issue. You're guilty and liable. The issue is damages. Offer? No, there's no offer. So you're going to force the issue into court, and then you're going to hire your outside contractor attorneys to defend it over a friggin' damage claim that's easily accessible and determinable. People are disgusting. Thank you.
Next speaker, Barbara.
The next speaker is Herman Herman. You have 2 minutes and 30 seconds left? Mr. Herman, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
In contrast to the first speaker, I believe since we're dealing here with legal counsel, I believe politically on this commission that you should allow punitive damage to award the claimants who are involved in litigation here, one in particular at 43164 Lake Hughes, because I've determined that with failing infrastructure and determining whether or not you should provide utility poles, utility lines that are upgraded and up to code, I find you in contempt of that action. So again, I ask that you, on the legal end, provide punitive damage. And I could even go on to talk about emotional issues here, but I'm not. I'm just saying provide case by case with legal payment due. Thank you.
We have one speaker card on item 22A2. Barbara?
Okay, I have 2 for that one. The first one is Adolf Hitler.
How much time?
Pardon?
How much time do I have?
A minute and 25 seconds.
You don't want to give me an extra 10 seconds. We won't want that. Anyway, guilty again. No issue of liability. You're guilty as sin. 100-year-old broken down water system, it breaks. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Why are these people waiting a year for their money? Pay UCLA, the students, for the damages to their cars. Stop this delay. There is no liability issue. Damages is the only issue. Thank you.
We have another card on this one, Barbara?
Yes, Herman Herman.
Yeah, go Bruins. But unfortunately, Bruins, we have a problem here that we can't satisfy payments in regards to damages. How long has the infrastructure of broken down, corroded piping has damaged private property along with those at UCLA? Just pay out the claims, you damage their cars, you damage their properties, fix the problem by paying. Otherwise, you have these ridiculous legal counsel just wasting their time of arbitration here when you can just settle it in a welcome payment. I hold my time for the next item.
On item number A10, we have 2 speaker cards, Barbara?
I do have another one, though, turned in for A3,
Okay.
and that is Mr. Herman.
Sharon Bransford, Stephen Sharper, and Rachel Tash versus LADWP in the Superior Court B0565618 regarding the California Government Code. But before tee off at the well in our opening golf session today, I just want to acknowledge that, again, legal counsel must conclude the problems created by poor infrastructure. In my hands, I have a guideline to the rights of the disabled who many times your devices that are placed in the sidewalks in areas of importance, which is pertaining to our quality of life, is a subject of matter that goes into the legal counsel. And if we're going to continue with legal counsel for 1 year, 3 years, you're just creating a bureaucracy of paperwork. I call it bad management or mismanagement. Take on the claims, pay off, and pay off. You have the money of the taxpayers. You've continued to raise the rates of the taxpayers. In addition to that, when Tom LaBonge comes back as a PR man, just remind him that, again, he's in violation of the rights of the disabled when you disrupt, alter any infrastructure that involves legal counsel. Fix the problem. Repair our sidewalk and streets so we don't have these conditions of legal counsel and arbitration that goes on for 2 or 3 years. And again, I'm pointing back to 43164 Lake Hughes. Pay, pay, pay. It's your duty. It's your obligation. Stop creating the haggle of legal process, which is due process.
Barbara, does Mr. Herman have any remaining time?
No.
Okay, thank you. At A10, we have 2 speaker cards.
Okay, I do have another one for A8.
A8, okay.
Yes.
Who is that?
Mr. Hitler.
How much time does he have remaining?
55 seconds.
Go get him, Price Waterhouse. You're right. Get him. Get him, get him, get him, get him. Price Waterhouse, Coopers, beat these bastards. They are the ones that destroyed the billing system, not you, Price Waterhouse. Get them.
A10, Barbara?
A10, Mr. Hitler.
How much time?
46 seconds.
San Diego, great city and county. They had to sue you not in one city, but in 2 cities. So again, San Diego, keep their football team. Number 2, win. Give them back their water. You're guilty. San Diego is correct. Have a special session. Go on the microphone and say, we confess, San Diego County, we're stealing from you. You're right. Please forgive us and settle these claims. Stop trying to hire lawyers and obfuscate the issue. The issue is, are you right or is San Diego County right? They've been right for 100 years. They were right 10 years ago. They were right yesterday. San Diego is right. Pay them.
Another speaker card on A10.
Yes, Mr. Dart Jr.? Justin?
I think he left.
Did he leave? Okay.
We have a speaker card on, I can't read this writing.
Wait, there was another one, A10, but his time's been used, Mr. Herman.
Okay.
And that's...
No. What other speaker cards do we have, Barbara?
That's all.
Okay. Counsel?
Yes, sir. We shall go into closed session, and the board shall report any action taken in closed session and the vote or abstention of every member present thereon in accordance with Section 54 and 957.1 of the California Government Code.
Thank you.